Hello, everybody. How are you? Good to be with you. So if you're anything like I used to be, then it may be that you are afraid to fully awaken. Some of you are afraid to even give it a go at all. That used to be me too. I get it completely. We don't even know what we're scared of. We're just scared of it because what's going to happen to Fred when Fred wakes up, right? I mean, that was the question for me. I mean, if Fred wakes up, then Fred's world will just simply fall apart because I'll be viewing things every differently. I'll probably have to give up all my stuff. Not that I had a hell of a lot of stuff back in the day, but I wasn't keen on giving up what little I had. And I was and who would manage things, right? I mean, gee whiz, you just can't. Fred can't vacate Fred's life because if so, I mean, everything is just going to go to pot, right? I mean, that's the way it felt to me. Maybe that's the way it feels to you. And for those of you who've had an awakening, but now I feel like you've forgotten it, which don't worry, it hasn't gone anywhere. But if you feel like that you've had an awakening, but that you've moved back into the dream, there may still be I know something, but you probably cannot remember what it is that you know. That's the way it was for me. 1992 was woke up, whoop, ego commandeered the awakening. Moments later, it didn't take long for this. And from that point on, then what I knew was that Fred had woken up, which is an announcement to the world, to the universe, that I am not awake. Although I might still be awakeness, because it can't not be. But what I wanted to say is that I can remember in post-awakening, I don't know, year or two, a couple of years, I think, after initial awakening, the second initial awakening which is a contradiction in terms, but 92 was its own thing. And then in 2006, there was, another thing. And that was a more complete awakening. But even after that, I mean, when we wake up, let's be clear, we're awake to what we're awake to, but that doesn't mean across the board. Ramana Maharshi might have gotten snippy with the cook, right? Who knows? I mean, it's not like the unit becomes, no halo comes up, right? The guy told me once the difference between a halo and a noose is 6 inches. I'm not interested in a halo. But at any rate, it doesn't make you perfect. As a matter of fact, it makes you so incredibly ordinary that it is absolutely astonishing. All of that specialness that you've got over there, it just all peels off. Now, you can recollect it, and most of us will to some degree or another. But it doesn't mean that the conditioning that's there just, it's not like letting the air out of a balloon, You don't wake up and whoosh, all this conditioning's gone and I'm a little guy. But although this is what I wanted, but even more than that, I wanted you to notice that I was a little guy. But anyway, I was sitting in my living room and I got the invitation. I've told the story before, but we're going to tell it again, apparently. So I was sitting in my living room. I got the opportunity. I can't explain it. They're just in front of me. There was literally in front of me. There was the opportunity, at least at that moment, that it felt like this is your chance. This is your chance to the whole 9 yards, right? This is not part of the thing. This is the thing. And it freaked me out so badly, I immediately said no. And it closed up. And when it did, I like to tore my head off for being stupid. Oh, you idiot, you stupid idiot. How could you have done that? Well, the truth is I couldn't have not done that, right? That's just what happened because I didn't make that decision. Awakeness made an offer and awakeness turned it down. That's what the truth is. And awakeness made an offer and awakeness over here said, whoa, you are really early on that. So but what's the reason is that it's the reason I turned it down. I mean, I couldn't have not turned it down because it just scared me to death. Because even though I knew there was no Fred was still was still heavy company. And I'd be there'd be no sense of Fred, and then something would come up and there'd be a sense of Fred. There'd be a sense that this shouldn't be, and that's where identification always comes in. It's generally going to be with the body, and it's absolutely going to be with things shouldn't be as they are, which means that things should be as they are in my imagination. And my imagination is not that great to the point where I can even conjure up what ought to be going on, but clearly this is not it. This is a very limited happening. Do you see this? I mean, for a guy like me. So there was this just gut level fear. And I talked to, a lot of people, and who I used to talk to a whole lot of people prior to awakening, but I don't really talk to that many now before awakening. But I've talked to several thousand of you, so I guess that would count as good practice. And what I found is that a lot of you are afraid that you're going to lose your jobs, for instance, that your job's just going to go down the toilet. You won't be able to go to work anymore. You won't be able to do your job. You won't be able to function. You're going to lose your mode of making a living. You're afraid that you're going to neglect your family, that either you're going to go get so frou-frou that the family can't speak with you, or you're just going to walk away and ignore them because a lot of you are afraid that you're going to live in the forest. Well, I have lived in the forest before, and it was not as a spiritual mendicant, and I ain't going back in any way, shape, or form. And unless I do. I mean, who knows? I can't tell you the future. This unit's crazy as hell. It can still do anything. It really could at any moment. I'm not, is that to tell you the truth? I'm not in control. And when I tell you I'm not in control, I don't know who it is that's telling you I'm not in control, because I can't find an owner to that here. I cannot find control. But there's that sense that we're gonna lose control, because the idea that I don't have individual agency just seems insane, doesn't it? I mean, it just, what do you mean that I'm not in charge? What do you mean that I'm not doing this and that and the other? So let's talk about the difference between the sense of something and the truth of something. This whole, whatever this is a sense of world. It's a sense of universe. It's a sense of world. It's a sense of over here, South Carolina, my house, in my studio. That's where it feels like that's the happening. But this is the infinitesimal, unfindable speck of a happening, which, and this is about as far from center as you can probably get. But it's hard to get far from center because there's no center. See, this is the thing, is that we're so afraid that when we wake up that the center here is just going to fall to pieces. Don't worry, it won't. There's no center. There's a sense of center, I know, and there's a sense of Fred over here. It's very modest anymore. And it doesn't, I don't mean Fred's modest, I just mean that the sense of Fred is modest. We know better than to say that Fred is modest. Fred is an egomaniac, but fortunately, he vacates the room most of the time now. So, and I get a chance to say something. So there's the sense that things will fall apart. If I go, everything goes. But let me ask you a question. You see the red hat on my head? You see it? I wonder what will happen when I take the red hat off my head. I'm pretty sure if I take the red hat off my head, that things are going to go to hell. I mean, it's just going to be a mess. It really is, right? I mean, everything, I put all my energy and everything into this red hat. It's a pretty big red hat. You can see it, and it's but not heavy. It doesn't make my head go too much, but it's unmissable, isn't it? Gotta have my red hat. But then I walk in front of a mirror and I go, oh my God, my hat's gone. Oh no, the world is going down the tubes now. I'm done, everything's toast. God almighty, it was all about the hat, and now I don't have the hat. And I will feel like I lost the hat. Oh God, that was the greatest hat. And I'm a bit of a fool for hats over here. Although I wouldn't be a fool for a red one, I don't think. So you can't lose what you never had. I can't lose a hat, a red hat, from my head when there ain't one up there. Now I can think there's one up there. And if I were a little bit sicker than I am, I could look in the mirror and hallucinate that there was still that there was a red hat on my head. See, I'm thinking that there used to be one. You got to watch it, don't you? So there is, so what I'm telling you is this free will. I'm not trying to tell you that you don't have free will. I certainly am not going to tell you that you do have free will. What I am going to tell you is that the you that you think you are simply does not exist. Doesn't. Therefore, the you that you think you are cannot have free will or fail to have free will, because there's no you there. In the absence of Fred, let me tell you what I can, and there's no Fred here, so I'm just reporting on what's actually here. But in order to be clear about the fact that there's no Fred here, I bring it up. So in the absence of a Fred, what I find is this. That's exactly what I find. Check your end. In the absence of the person that you think you are, the personality that you think you are, what can you find over there? If you're not that body, if all of the sages for thousands of years did not gang up just to pull your leg, and you really are not that body, and there's no Tom, Dick, Harry, Mary, or Susan, then what do you find? Well, call me peculiar, but I find this. I do. I find this, whatever that is. I don't even know what that is. I'm checking my clock. I don't want to go forever here. Oh yeah, we're getting long too. I guess I hope I've hit my major points. Don't be fearful about losing what isn't there. It's not a matter of you don't have agency. It's a matter of there's no you. Now, we can say that there is a sense of you, as there's a sense of Fred, there's a sense of humanity functioning over here. It feels like there's a Fred who's married to, it looks like a Betsy, and has 2 dogs and da-da-da. Got this teaching. But there's nobody running the show over here. And there's not actually anybody in the cast either. It's a castless show. It's a casteless theater. Welcome to no theater. And this isn't like the Japanese NOH theater. This is NO theater. It's no theater because there's no cast. And you know what else? There's no conflict. Imagine there was no conflict right now. Imagine that you were not under threat. Because I mean, we get under threat now. Hell, you know, people are literally worried about zombies, and they're worried about Martians, and they're worried about the Soviets. And oh my God, watch out for those Chinese. And who knows what else? Oh God Almighty, people from South America and Central America, they're gonna overrun us, right? Just and this is bullshit that's as old as human nature. It's the same story that we've been telling ourselves for thousands of years. And let me tell you something. The boogeyman has yet to show. No boogeyman. There's been talks about the boogeyman. There's appear to be sightings, flash sightings of the boogeyman. The boogeyman's kind of like Bigfoot. I haven't seen him myself, but I know somebody who knows somebody who has a cousin, and he saw him. You know, just a flash, but it was, trust me, it's where he's there. I lived in Oregon, and I went around the mountains and in the woods and wilderness, and I never saw Bigfoot. I thought I might, you know, because I was still open to that idea. Hell, I'm open to it now. I can go walking in my neighborhood and Bigfoot shows up. I ain't going to say there's no Bigfoot. I'm going to say, well, look what you have learned. There is a Bigfoot, and he's in your neighborhood. And you better get the hell on home. You're not going, your life, and I can't tell you, I know I hear stories, I read the same books that you've read. I'm sure you've read some that I haven't, and I've read some that you haven't, but it's many of those stories, they just go crossing everything. And I understand there are lots of stories about people whose lives just exploded after they woke up. And I've seen that happen. But it's been a long time since I've seen that happen. And it was never common here. And it certainly hasn't happened. I mean, it's been a long time. It's been years. What causes the disruption in a life is that there's such a shock between the way we think things are and the way that they really are. That initially it can be quite shocking. I don't know who it's shocking for or to, but it's shocking. It will be shocking, the thing that thinks it's a center over here, a little ball of ego, or some kind of little central string in the middle that says I'm Fred, whatever, then that can't go anywhere because it ain't here to begin with. It can't disappear because it's never here. You can't lose what you don't have. Yeah, but what about, oh my God, what about my specialness? Here's the real key, isn't it? I don't want to lose my specialness. And listen, I have worked this hard to get to where I'm a pillar of the community, and I'll be damned if I'm going to give that up for the sake of some crazy ass spirituality. Fine. Keep what you got. I got no problem with that. If you want to keep what you got, just don't bother me. because if you want to keep what you've got and you bother me, I may actually talk you into throwing that away. So just rather than face that possibility, just stay the hell away, because I got plenty of time. I mean, I don't have enough time talking to people who do want to give that up. So if it's really that big a deal, if your life, if your career, if you think, I mean, your career is probably going to be unaffected, or if anything at all, it may improve. Mine, God Almighty, completely improved. So when I say that, you know, just referring to the Fred unit. There's an experience of a Fred unit over here. There's an experience of a Fred life and a Fred wife and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not trying to get rid of that, even though I know that all of it is a myth. All of it is, it's a grand hallucination though. I am so enjoying it. Really. I really, once you get to where you get to notice that all these hallucinations are important, but none of them count because they're hallucinations. And the number one hallucination is this body, and that it is and the identification as a Fred, that this is the thing, this is a Fred. You probably think a Fred is talking to you. Hell, I have to put my name. You know, there's a YouTube channel called Fred Davis, right? And I mean, that's just what I did when I first signed up. I mean, when I signed up with YouTube, I wasn't even cutting videos. I just became a member of YouTube. So I just put my name, Fred Davis. Then when I started cutting videos, they just stuck with it. I mean, it automatically became the name of the channel. It's Fred Davis. But there's no Fred Davis here. There's not one talking to you, and you're not listening to one. What's over here is awakeness. What's over here, so to speak, is awakeness. What's over there, so to speak, is awakeness. We could say incorrectly that everything in between the two is awakeness also, only there's no between. That's what one means, the math of one, there's no between. See, you think all of these objects are separated by space, right? It's what's under them, on top of them, and around them, and behind them, and all that, right? And these objects really stand out, but they don't. The objects are experiences, they're images, they're appearances, but they're not standing away from the space. They are webbed into it because there's nothing but space. There is unconditioned space, which is what more or less what my hands are running through. This is very similar enough for this talk to be unconditioned space. This old guy here, this is conditioned space. But this and this are not different. They show up differently because oneness is not, there's no law that says oneness has to be sameness. There might be a law that says it can't be, that it shouldn't be, because it's not. Oneness shows up in a zillion different ways. And you are oneness. There's nothing wrong here. There's nothing for you to fix, and there's nothing for you to worry about breaking, because there's no you here. I am talking awakeness to awakeness, nothing in between. Awakeness to awakeness. Hello, awakeness. How you doing? You are awakeness. You just, I mean, I am in league with all the spiritual teachers that for millennia have gotten together just to pull your leg into thinking that there is something beyond relativity or below relativity, before and after relativity. Although there's no real before and after, because there's not really any time, but you know, we're just talking. Just relax. What if you could trust the universe? Huh? What if you could trust God to do this thing the way that it needed to be done? I mean, I'm confident that if she needs your help, she'll let you know. She's not been calling on me lately. And called on me for years and years. Never did call on me, but I thought she called on me for a long time. But I have not heard that call for 15 years, not to any large degree. Everything's good. Everything's fine. It really, really is. And that doesn't just come from me. That comes from Jesus. It comes from Buddha. It comes from Nisargadatta. It comes from Ramana. It comes from Ramakrishna. It comes from Gandhi. It comes from Philip Kepler-Roche. It comes from Thoreau. It comes from Emerson. It comes also from Walt Whitman. I'm just looking at people over here, people's pictures I have on the wall. And there's a couple over here, more over here who I just can't remember their names, but I do know them well. I've read their books, but I just can't remember. Thank you very much for attending this madness, for letting me vent madness for half an hour. I love you. I love you. I want you really to feel that. And truly, there's nothing but love. I love love. And love loves you. See you later.